Okay, vi er meget heldige at have. I'll take it in English. So we are very lucky because we have a guest here, James Hansen. He's one of the leading climate scientists, and he has a lot of. He was one of the first to tell the American Congress that there was a climate problem. So and he already, I think it was in '88, he talked to the Congress in United States. And so I want to ask you first: are you psychic, or how did you predict the climate change, or what was it that you understood back then?
Well, I started out doing planetary research, and you can understand a lot by looking at the different planets and comparing Mars, Earth, and Venus and see how their climates differ because of the differing atmospheres that they have. And you also learn a lot by looking at the history of the Earth and how the Earth's climate changed as the atmospheric composition changed. And we can use climate models which represent the physical processes. And all of these different things tell us that the climate is sensitive to changes in atmospheric composition. And quantitatively, we understand it pretty well.
Okay. So now everybody almost are agreeing on that there are climate changes and they are it's a real danger. So how do you experience that the politicians and all the decision makers are responding to this climate changes?
Yeah, that's the big problem. The response is primarily greenwash. The politicians are agreeing that there is a long-term problem and we need to do something, and they say the right words, but the actions don't correspond. I think that they are influenced too much by the special interest, the lobbyists, the money in the capitals around the world, because the actions so far are very modest. Even the countries that said they would reduce their emissions, most of them did not do that.
And that is that what we have to do? Is that how we deal with the climate change? Or what are there of possibilities of action?
Well, yeah, what is clear is that we cannot burn all the fossil fuels. That is what has become crystal clear. And if you look at how much carbon there is in oil, gas, and coal, what you realize very quickly is that coal is the big issue. It's 80% of the solution. If we would phase out coal use over the next 20 years, then the problem is solvable. But right now, we're not doing that. We're actually increasing the use of coal. And even the countries that say they are very green are building new coal-fired power plants. This is crazy because once you put that carbon into the atmosphere, you can't get it back. A lot of it will stay there for more than 1,000 years. So it's very important that that message get out there that we have to phase out coal use.
You actually, how do you look upon the people who are doing this? Who are making more coal plants, like Dong, the Danish energy system here? What do you think of those people, or people making that kind of decisions?
Well, I think they're being irresponsible because the science has become clear. They can find some scientist who will dispute this, but if they go to any authoritative body, like the National Academy of Science in the United States or any large authoritative scientific organization, the answers that come back are very clear. And yet they are ignoring that and just continuing down that path. They should become energy companies instead of fossil fuel companies and work on the energies that we will need in the future, because fossil fuels wouldn't last forever anyhow. It's just that they're very convenient now because they're very cheap. But they're not cheap if you take account of the costs that they cause for society. They're not made to pay for the pollution damage, the air pollution, the water pollution, the mercury, the human health effects. If they were forced to include that in the price of the fuel, then in fact they're not cheap. And so we really should be looking for other energy sources. No, well, what I have said is that if they intentionally mislead the public, then they are guilty of crimes against nature and humanity, because it's very analogous to the tobacco manufacturers who intentionally misled the public about the dangers of smoking, even though they really knew that it was dangerous. And now it has become clear that coal burning is dangerous. And if they're honest about that, then it's not a crime, but they have to. But the problem is that in many cases they've tried to mislead the public about that and to provide funding for people who are not, who are spreading doubt about science, which has actually become clear.
So, what are your suggestions to our viewers who I guess probably is already a member of the climate movement? Or, I mean, what are your suggestions to people in general? What can we do? What is there to do?
Well, we have to support the people who, and make them, the politicians who will do something, and then hold them to that. Too often we've elected people on a green platform, and yet they don't come through with the actions that are needed. We have to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you again in December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a message, last message to the viewers?
Well, the most important thing to solve the climate problem is to phase out coal use. You have to make clear that we'll not accept continued coal use, because the implications of that for young people and nature have become very clear.